In this video, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how do you actually solve problems. There's a lot of misconceptions about what problem solving is in the workplace. I've got a couple of examples to draw from. And my hope is by the end of this video that you will understand the reality of problem solving in action and what you can do about it and how you can apply some quick strategies to learn a little bit more and become effective at problem solving in your workplace or in your career or whatever it is that you want to do. So typically what you'll see is this approach. So normally there's these steps or these cycles to solve a problem. The first part is to identify the problem and develop alternatives. There's a big mother of all assumptions here that is actually wrong. So it's wrong, right? You can't identify a problem in advance of doing the exploration that you need to do to know what the solution's going to be. And there's a catch, and the catch is this. How do you know what the best alternative of problem solving is if you don't know what the problem is in the first place? So when I've got some examples coming up that we can draw from, when we are looking at problem solving in general, we are trying to get to implementing and solving the problem, as you can see on the diagram that way. And you can see that we're trying to get to the stage where we're testing and learning. But the truth of the matter is most problems are poorly defined. Why? Because there's no data, there's no experience, there's no one's actually explored it. They're having a painful experience right now, which is the correct way to think of a problem. They're having a very painful experience, something difficult is happening, and there's no clear solution. Identifying the problem could be wrong because the person identifying the problem may be stuck in a way of thinking that is limiting them from seeing the alternatives in the first place. So while this is technically correct, identifying, developing alternatives, selecting the best alternatives and implementing them, and obviously reflecting on the solution, it makes a hell of a lot more sense to begin exploring solutions first and then thinking about the problem and redefining the problem as you experiment with different solutions as you move along, right? You may not agree, but this approach, it just can't work. Here's some examples. Life is very messy, right? Problems don't start with a solution in mind either. So let's just say, for example, your relationship breaks up. Your partner leaves. Well, that sucks. What are you going to do? The thing is, you now have a problem. The solution might come down the line a bit later. Getting another partner obviously is not the first thing that you should do, but thinking about how do I now rebuild after having invested so much time into this? Or your business failed. When your business fails, there's a horrible feeling. Happened to me once. And you're like, wow, that sucks. I had all my hopes and dreams invested in this, and after a period of mourning, you eventually pick yourself back up. You either try again, if you're stupid enough to do that, or you go back to working a job or doing something like that. Another example, what that means is I don't really know why the business failed. It could have failed for a number of reasons, but defining the problem as, oh, the business failed is really the wrong answer because it's over. The problem I have is, how do I get over the business failing? So we have to think carefully about how we identify problems, because what happens in our brain is the minute we identify a problem, we automatically link ourselves to possible solutions. We don't want to do that. That's the wrong approach. What we want to do is think about what the problem is, do some exploring and learning, reflecting, some thinking, talking to others, running some experiments, as I'll show you in a minute, and then thinking about what is a good model here that might work. But that's risky. Anyway, so here's an example. I've had this experience with one of my children. Your boss rolls in and says, why is your ATV so low? That means actual transaction value. So in other words, why aren't you getting enough sales in this retail store? So the answer to that is, I don't know. So the problem isn't necessarily your ATV is low. The problem is you're not getting enough sales. We're not making target, right? The problem is that the manager is now passing that problem on to the person who's doing the sales, right? And that's what's happening. That problem is being passed on to someone to solve. But that's not the problem. The problem could be unrealistic sales targets. Could be these products don't sell. Could be this person couldn't sell their way out of a paper bag, right? Could be this store is going bankrupt anyway. There's a million different possible solutions. The solution isn't raise the ATV. The solution is let's explore why that might even be an issue in the first place. You've got to look at the underlying conditions. What makes a problem a problem? The underlying conditions. Why is the ATV low? I have no idea. You tell me. We'll both know. Once you know, I'll know. I can make more money and then leave. Example 2, we need to make 5% more donations or we're out of business. So this happened to me personally. Many years ago, I was working for a place that every month, and if you've worked in the non-for-profit sector, you know this pain, every month would be like, I was the treasurer. So we'd look at the budgets. The organisation is still going, so it's good. I'm no longer involved with them, but we look at the budgets and the money spent and think, we need another this much or that much, or this month we've got heaps, next month we're not going to have as much. One of the worst things that can happen in a not-for-profit, in my experience, is surplus. So we've got all this surplus, what are we going to do with it? That never happened in the one I was working in. For other people, it might be let's invest it and get that, solid financial foundation. But we constantly had this problem, and every single month the question was, how do we get more donations? Well, it actually became a different problem when other people took over, and it became, we don't want more donations, we want to solidify this base and grow it slowly over time. So no one could ever effectively define what that problem was, but we knew we weren't making enough money. We could say, oh, we're not making enough money, but another way to frame that problem might be, let's stop doing this particular model of charity and like going to a hardware store and selling sausages or doing a cake and bake sale or doing door knocking. Let's try and find a more effective strategy and then see if that raises the amount of money we have. But that conversation never took place because people already had in mind strategy A, strategy B, or strategy C. They never actually thought about what might be the real problem and digging deeper into the roots of the problem and thinking, oh, I know what's causing this problem. The model's broken. What's the truth? Well, I don't know why I wrote that. The truth is, whatever you think it is, don't shoot me. I'm not getting into the philosophy of this. That might be another video, we'll see. No one will watch it, but it'll be good. If you knew the answer, it wouldn't be a problem, it would be a solution. Yet, what's the number one thing we do in our organizations? What's the number one thing we do? I know the answer. This is the answer. Wrong. Don't do that. It's wrong. Why is it wrong? Because you don't know the answer. If you had the answer, it wouldn't be a problem. It would be life as you know it. Life is messy. There are no clear answers. But what you can do is approximate the truth. And we do that by starting from our experience and observing and reflecting. So this is a very old idea, very old, but it still holds up in some situations. If you think of agile, you think of lean, you think of all that stuff, this is the basis of that in my opinion. So we start with a concrete experience. In this case, we'll call it the problem. What is the problem? We don't know. So what we have to do instead of rushing to judgment is that we have to observe, reflect, and form a concept of the problem, or what I like to call engage with the problem and create an idea of what it might be and what the solutions might be. But we can't comment on that until we make the last step, which is testing. Nobody wants to do this because this is where the risk is. It's great, you get on a whiteboard, you draw up a bunch of stuff and you're like, God, that's beautiful, look at that, that's a wonderful model. But you haven't solved a thing at that point in time. You haven't solved anything. All you've done in that process is come up with ideas, but you've got to test them. And how do you do that? Well, you might be familiar. This is a very rudimentary document. You see there's a reference there. I stole this from the internet. But there's a very rudimentary process there. But once you get to the point where you want to test something, you have a vision, you create a strategy for testing it. You create a hypothesis, you try, you fail, you learn, and you validate that experience on whether it worked or didn't. One caveat here is when you're testing ideas to see if you can get to the solution, is that you've got to give yourself enough time. And at the same time, although we don't have any time, you've got to build a model over time that works, that makes sense, that people can use, that they can adapt and evolve, and involve others if you think that's a worthwhile thing to do. The point of this exercise is that last point, test in new situations. This is what's missing from this learning cycle, is you want to validate your learning. You want to say, okay, I think I know what the problem is, and I think I know what the solution is. So if you think of it like string, the problem's here, the pain is here, this is very painful, it hurts, ow, I don't like this experience. And as your experience of the problem grows and you're exploring it, building those concepts, testing ideas, you can begin to see how the two things are connected. And then you can come up with solutions. And eventually over time you come up with a strategy. That strategy might be a 4-step model, a 10-step model, might be deleting the whole thing. That's a whole other video which I'll talk about in another session. Taking those concepts and then saying, I'm going to try this and see what happens. You don't have to run massive experiments. You don't have to spend millions of dollars. All you have to do is try something, see what happens, and see if it gives you the data that you need to correctly frame the problem. What everybody does wrong is that they think they define the problem from the outset. You can't possibly know that in advance unless you're Nostradamus or you're psychic. And if you are, I would love to work with you, because I've never met anyone that could just look at a problem and go, I know what it is, without years and years of experience or expertise behind them. Lastly, and I'll finish up on this, when you're working on, this is the action learning cycle, it's a development of the model you saw a couple of slides ago, but the idea is quite simple. Working on real problems leads to questions. It shouldn't lead to solutions immediately. It should lead to something I like to think of as empathy or empathic listening. When someone's talking about the problem, you're trying to dive deep into what that problem is. You're trying to understand the pain, the cause of the pain, the issue, and then you work backwards from that to what a possible solution might be. And I'll say that again. You listen, you don't judge, you don't say anything, you suspend your judgment, you actively listen, and you work backwards to what the problem might be. You then use other types of feedback, like you can use surveys if you really want to. You can talk to a bunch of people, you can use ads, whatever you want to create the testing, to test the ideas. But what you're trying to do here is create a model of a possible solution based on what you've heard and experienced from the person or yourself experiencing the problem-solving difficulty. Working on a real problem leads to questions. Questions leads to exploration, listening to others, collecting feedback, and then finally doing something. And that's the strategizing part. You create the strategy, and then you're going through that testing cycle that we talked about a few slides ago. You're going through this experience, observation, reflection, conceptualization, and testing. I won't talk about testing in this video because I've already rambled on for probably 12 minutes. But if you do like this, share it with people. Let them know that this is a video that they would like. And thank you for listening, and I hope to see you again soon on some other videos. All right, thank you. Have a great day.